Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever wondered what really separates the absolute legends of investing from everyone else, I'll tell you right now, it is not just about crunching numbers or having some secret insider market knowledge. Today, we're going to dive deep into the writings of financial titans to uncover their ultimate secret: decoding human misjudgment. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We're going to cover decades of investing wisdom, evolution and the brain, the superpower of incentives, how we get trapped by inconsistency, reciprocation, and false associations, and finally, cultivating a rational mind. Let's get right into it. Section 1: Decades of Investing Wisdom. Just look at the lifelong dedication it actually takes to overcome our own cognitive errors. We're talking about Warren Buffett's early shareholder letters back in '77, Howard Marks' first Oak Tree memo in 1990, and Charlie Munger revising his famous Psychology of Human Misjudgment in 2005. And this pursuit of rationality, it's ongoing right up to today. Mastering your own mind, it's definitely not a one-and-done lesson. It is a relentless, lifelong discipline. Moving on to Section 2, Evolution and the Brain. To really grasp how markets work, we actually have to talk about biology for a second. Think about an ant. An ant will literally carry a kicking live colony mate straight out of the hive just because it smells a dead ant pheromone. It operates entirely on this strict chemical programming. Now, we humans love to think our billions of brain cells make us infinitely smarter, right? But the reality is, we've got our own hidden biological programming that constantly bypasses logic, easily fooled by simple things like contrast and circumstance. For example, if a stimulus changes just a little too slowly, it stays entirely below our sensory threshold. It literally doesn't register. Munger loves to point out how a magician once made the actual Statue of Liberty disappear for a live audience. How? Simply by rotating the platform the audience was sitting on so incredibly slowly that they couldn't even feel the acceleration. Our cognition gets tricked the exact same way. Think about a slow creep in inflation, or a gradual decline in a company's fundamentals. It stays totally under the radar until, bam, it's too late. All right, Section 3, the superpower of incentives. So, this brings us to what's known as the reward and punishment super response tendency. Even a genius like Munger admits he consistently underestimated this one. Guys, it's a superpower. It's so wildly strong that it actively causes perfectly decent, normal people to rationalize terrible, even highly immoral decisions, simply because the incentive structure rewards them for it. Let me give you a perfect example. Take Federal Express. They were dealing with a massive logistical nightmare. They could not get the night shift to load planes fast enough. They tried moral suasion. They tried begging. They tried everything. But they were paying them by the hour, which literally rewarded taking longer. So what was the fix? They switched to paying per shift, meaning workers could just go home as soon as the task was done. And guess what? Instantly, the planes were loaded flawlessly and rapidly. People just repeat behavior that works. On the flip side, let's look at the number 95. That's the percentage of value Westinghouse was willing to lend out for hotel construction. I mean, it created a completely insane incentive structure. By allowing their lending officers to report massive fictional profits up front on these incredibly risky loans, they essentially paid their own employees to naturally trigger billions of dollars in losses. It's just wild. So let's take a breath here and ask ourselves a really important question. If the rules of logic are so obvious, why on earth do the smartest, most experienced people in the room keep making terrible decisions that blow up their portfolios and their lives? That takes us to Section 4, Trapped by Inconsistency. The answer actually lies in how our innate biases map directly onto real-world errors. Take doubt avoidance, for instance. Our minds desperately want to remove doubt, so we reach hasty decisions, especially when we're under stress. And once we make that decision, inconsistency avoidance kicks right in. Munger says we act like a human egg, shutting off all other incoming sperm, or in this case, ideas, just to stubbornly defend that first, often totally flawed conclusion. We literally lock our brains up, refusing to break old habits or accept new information. And get this, we also massively distort facts just to facilitate love or hatred. This is exactly why Benjamin Franklin offered this hilarious yet highly practical advice. Keep your eyes wide open before marriage and half shut thereafter. When we like someone or something, our brain acts as this conditioning device that willfully ignores faults. We literally cannot see reality because our affection acts like a blinder. It is the exact reason why investors will stubbornly hold on to a failing legacy stock they've loved for years, completely ignoring glaring red flags. Section 5.
reciprocation and false associations.
There is this famous experiment by Professor Robert Cialdini that perfectly reveals how a small, manufactured concession triggers our subconscious reciprocation tendency. So, when researchers asked random people to volunteer a massive amount of time to supervise delinquents every week, literally everyone said no. Big surprise, right? But when they backed down and asked for just a single afternoon at the zoo, framing it as a concession, the acceptance rate actually tripled. We are hardwired to reciprocate a concession, even when it completely works against us. Similarly, mere association causes massive miscalculations. Our brains just love lazy shortcuts. Marketers know for a fact that we subconsciously associate a high price tag with high quality. A gambler will foolishly attribute a purely lucky past win to actual skill. And, super dangerously, if we naturally dislike a competitor, our brains will automatically underappraise their actual competency. This kind of association just completely bypasses logic. And man, we cannot forget Warren Buffett's brilliant observation here. The world is not driven by greed, it is driven by envy. Greed is just simply wanting more. But envy is that agonizing, deep-rooted desire for what someone else specifically possesses. It's exactly what drives institutional madness. Think about it. Banks taking on absolutely absurd risks simply because the bank across the street reported higher quarterly earnings. That's envy in action.
Okay, Section 6, cultivating a rational mind.
So, the big question, how do we actually fight back against all this? We have to deliberately rewire our habits with preventative routines. First, use Granny's rule. Force yourself to do the unpleasant, necessary tasks before you get dessert. Second, train yourself to defer your reactions. If you're angry, just wait until tomorrow before acting on it. And third, always objectively verify professional advice, especially when that advisor has a strong financial incentive to sell you something.
If you want to build true wisdom, we really need to borrow a mathematical rule from Carl Jacobi. Invert, always invert. What this means is, you don't just study how to be smart, you obsessively study exactly how to be stupid. And then you fiercely, actively avoid doing those things.
Following Charles Darwin's intense method is arguably the absolute best way to force your brain to accept radically new, correct ideas. Darwin knew full well that his brain would naturally want to reject any evidence that proved him wrong, so he made it an unbreakable habit to immediately write down any disconfirming evidence he found, knowing his mind would otherwise just conveniently forget it. You see, rationality isn't some natural state we just fall into. It is a hard-fought, continuous battle against our own biology. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Which mental misjudgments are you blindly chained today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you walk away ready to objectively question your own decision-making. Catch you next time.